All right. Speaking of code red, I had a black Suburban with tinted windows outside my house last night, and they stopped me before I went inside, and it was Homeland Security agents, and they said that they had been alerted because I caused a code red at Gilman yesterday. So, and I think every assembly I've ever given has caused a code red. So I'm going to try to avoid that. We're very close to being through, so we'll knock this out quickly. I'm sure you all remember yesterday what we covered in yesterday's part of the assembly. If this becomes unstuck, David Clark talked about corn and how he used some choice language to describe how corn drives our whole food system in this country, and how our government's decision to bankroll corn and to subsidize corn affects everything we eat. I talked a little bit about how our food system impacts the environment. Then Teddy Delwich and Joe White talked about animal welfare and also the workers' welfare, people who work in those. And now, without further ado, Mr. Waller is going to talk to you about health.
Hey guys. So I think there's really two main problems with our food system in the U.S. First of all, it's marketing. A lot of marketing is based on these unhealthy foods. They try to market them in a way that seems healthy. Like, for example, cereals like Frosted Flakes are marketed as part of a balanced breakfast when it really is just like carbs and sugar. They show it with like an apple or something. And I guess that could be considered a balanced breakfast, but that's not the way most people eat. So the other part of it is cost, how the unhealthy foods are so much less expensive than, say, the organic foods or the healthy choices. And this has led to some, I guess, disturbing trends in the U.S. Obesity is a massive problem. No pun intended there. I was looking at some statistics, and for adults over 20 years of age, 34% are obese, and another 34% in addition to that are overweight. So 68% of Americans could, I guess, stand to lose quite a few pounds. In children ages 2 to 5 years old, 10% of them are obese. I don't even know how that's possible. But it really boils down to the fact that cheap foods tend to be the foods that are a lot more fattening and a lot more just nutritionally unbalanced. The American diet's based on carbs, fat, sugar, and sodium. And I guess the trends of this are really apparent. So I know what we're trying to do with this school is really kind of balance that out and just offer some more healthy choices. So I guess that's just really the point I'm trying to make. Be smart about what you eat. Thanks.
I just want to reiterate a couple of points Matt made. Obesity is a huge problem in this country. It's the second leading cause of preventable death in America. Only cigarettes are worse for you than being fat. Okay? And fortunately, you're at a school where it's not an issue for most of you at this age. You're really, really active. Your parents feed you pretty well. Your metabolisms are high at this age. But when you get older, what you eat is really going to determine more than any other factor, even exercise, whether you are overweight or obese or not. Okay, and there's some genetic factors linked to that, but your diet's the number one thing. And the other sort of tragic thing about this is that The cheapest foods are the ones that are worst for us because the government subsidizes corn and derivatives of corn are used in all the cheap foods you can imagine. So the people who are without health care, the most vulnerable members of our society, are then also the ones that can't afford healthy food. And it's something that we really need to look at a national policy level, because there's no reason that a cheeseburger and french fries and a large Coke should cost less than carrots. It only costs less because we subsidize corn. So it's something at the policy level we need to look at. Now, I'm going to finish in 4 minutes here. I'm so excited that this timed out the way it did with Mr. Furlong talking about the cafeteria today, because you guys, I think a lot of you don't realize this, but are really, really fortunate to go to a school that takes this stuff seriously. And your cafeteria, unlike 99% of the cafeterias in America, has the leadership and the resources to do a lot of great things for you and your food. Local food comes in every single day to the cafeteria, food that's raised within, produced within 50, 100, 150 miles of here, okay? Very little frozen food is served to you, very little canned food, less than 15% of the food you eat is frozen or canned. A lot of organic choices, and even really healthy and environmentally responsible meat choices. The ground beef you guys get in your hamburgers and pasta comes from Rosetta Farms, which is grass-fed beef, which is amazing. I mean, I can't imagine very many other cafeterias in the country serve grass-fed beef. So your cafeteria does a lot to take care of you guys, and I hope you appreciate it. I know many of you probably don't because you're not even aware of it. The other reason the timing is appropriate is because the decisions that Mr. Furlong and Celeste face in terms of deciding on the menu for the cafeteria are the same decisions you face and that we all face, okay? Life is a series of trade-offs. We have to weigh, when we're eating every single day, and your parents have to weigh, cost versus quality. And that's a real decision to make. Cheaper food is worse for you. Also, the time and energy it takes to prepare healthy food is significantly more than what it takes to go through the drive-through window, okay? And sometimes, even taste versus nutrition can be an issue. Really cheap food tends to taste good because it has a lot of salt and sugar and fat in it. And what I hope is that this assembly, at the very least, will challenge you to look at your priorities. I'm not saying it has to change you, but at least give serious thought to your priorities. What I want to leave you with is a couple of really practical solutions, easy things that you can do. Okay, obviously a lot of these problems seem to be addressed by the federal government and state governments, which you don't have a lot of say over, but there are a lot of things you can do individually that aren't too taxing to lead to a healthier diet for yourself and help encourage a more responsible, healthier food production system in America. And I know these aren't all popular. Don't eat fast food. It's literally the worst thing you can do for your health. And I know that some of you aren't willing to give it up, so at least consider cutting your consumption of fast food in half. Okay, it is literally terrible for you. If any of you have seen Super Size Me, a man tries to eat McDonald's for a month and his doctors have to stop him before the month is over because his kidneys start to shut down. You can't live on that stuff. Don't eat highly processed foods, the foods that you could keep in your pantry for 10 years and they'd still be fine. Okay, that food should rot at some point. If it never rots, it's not really food. Don't eat foods with huge ingredient lists in which you can't pronounce any of the ingredients in the list, okay? If you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't be putting it in your body, most likely. Reduce the amount of white-colored food you eat. So that's white bread, white pasta. These are the highly processed foods. Sugar's white. Don't drink soft drinks. Again, the worst thing you can put in your body is soft drinks. Eat a fruit or vegetable with every meal. Try to make that a habit. It's really easy at Gilman at lunch. There's always a vegetable served with the entree, in the entree line. There's always a salad bar, and there's always a fruit choice. Okay? If you can hit any one of those three, you're doing well. If you hit 3 for 3, you're doing great. Eat whole grains. Don't eat in your car. Don't eat in your room by yourself. Don't eat in front of the TV. Okay? Eat slowly with friends and family. Enjoy your food. Keep in mind that you are what you eat, okay? Mr. Furlong mentioned garbage in, garbage out. The stuff you put in your body is what you are, right? It's the mass and the substance of your body is made from the food you put in. So put good stuff in. And I think a really good thing to keep in mind is that sometimes we feel powerless to affect the larger system. We feel like the government needs to step in, but we do have a lot of power, and we can vote with our purchases. Every time you scan something at the register, you're voting, okay? Companies respond to your demands, and if you demand healthier food, you'll get healthier food. And the last, very, very last thing, I swear, that I want to talk about is why this is relevant at a boys' school. I think 2 weeks ago, we tried to answer that question, is why should you care about the environment? And I think some really good reasons were given, but I want to talk about this specifically as a boys' school. Why is this important to you? Gilman is a place where our mission, I think our most important mission, is turning you into men who will lead responsibly and make the world a better place when you leave here. And so the question is, well, how is that related to food? And how is food and the environment related to this? And I want to frame this in a different way than it's normally framed. As someone who's always had strong feelings about the environment and who has recently developed strong feelings about food, it's always bothered me what a political issue this has become, and also how that political issue is framed as if being for the environment or being for healthy food is somehow not something that any red-blooded American male would support. That it's somehow soft or irrational or feminine, okay? That guys don't care about this kind of stuff. That's not true, okay? I want you to think back to Mr. Swincy's presentation about resources 2 weeks ago. There are two simple facts confronting the world that we all must take part in addressing. The first is that every single day there are more people on the planet. In fact, just last week the UN declared that the world's population eclipsed 7 billion people.
We're into a code break.
30 seconds, I swear.
We're ramping it up.
Okay. If the siren goes off, put your heads underneath your seats if the siren goes off. The second fact is that there's fewer resources every day, okay? And that's a challenge that faces all of us, and as a boys' school, we should look at that challenge in relationship to masculinity. How is our masculinity put on trial by the food we eat and the ramifications of our food, okay? This is the last thing, I swear to God. To answer that question, I would like to quote the author of another book I read this summer. The author's name is Sam Keane, and the book is called Fire in the Belly. Here it is. I promise. This is really important. This is really important. Here it is. Here's the quote. Men in our time are called to deal with the darkness at noon, the failure of our success, the impotence of our power, and the waste products of our creativity. The quandaries of our time are war and pollution. If the primal sense of belonging in the commonwealth of sentient beings doesn't sink down into our hearts and guts, if it doesn't change our understanding of what it means to be a man, if it doesn't change whom we admire and what we aspire to become, we will certainly become the destroyers of our homeland. All right, sorry about that. Thank you.
Person's class, come on the field trip.